topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Good afternoon, Houston. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Got a great show for you today. We got a great expert who's been with us forever. And because we're in so many markets, I really use Google and Yelp and read about different companies. And one of the things that I notice with these tax relief companies, that a lot of complaints that once someone signed up with them, that they never heard anything back from them. And then you'd look a year later and they're not even open anymore. Well, this expert, who's been doing this for a long time, has been around forever, which in itself is a great recommendation. I trust them totally when it comes to tax relief. Let me introduce you to our expert, Barry Fowler, Taxation Solutions.
Hey, Steve, how are you today?
Barry, how long have you been doing this for? And use English too.
Well, okay, so Taxation Solutions has been around since 2008. I've been in the tax business since I've been knee-high to a grasshopper, and that dates me way back. And then you and I have been on Ask the Experts, and when you first invited me on this, maybe 10, 11 years ago, somewhere around there?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, what is this? I even came down to Florida down there and met with you, and we did like our first video and some broadcasts, and we were on various stations around the country. And it's probably one of the neatest things to be able to get information out. And a lot of what we do, I mean, we deal with people nationwide, but we also deal a lot with truckers. So like this weekend here in Houston, we're going to be down at the NRG Center, and they have the Texas Trucking Show. We were setting up down there this morning, and I was hoping to come back with some good pictures and stuff. They're still working on our booth. And so if you're in Houston this weekend and you got nothing else to do, come on down to the truck show. Actually, admittance to this truck show is free. You got to pay for parking. And if you got a tax problem, come see us. If you drive a truck and you need bookkeeping and tax help, my sister company that we have, Trucker Tax Tools, will be out there as well, talking about truckers' taxes, trucker bookkeeping, the things we do to help people stay out of trouble with the IRS. And we help many, many businesses across the country stay out of trouble by doing their accounting and their bookkeeping and stuff as well. And but just if you got nothing better to do, come on out and see us. Take a look at some of these big semi trucks. If you've never seen the inside of one, it's a great place to come out and see the inside of a big semi truck. They're really cool with the sleepers and everything in it, and some of the neat things we get to see and do with the people we help. But we, like I said, we've been doing this a long time, helping people get out of tax problems, giving them tax relief, saving them from the IRS, and the fun things we get to do in life.
Boy, Barry, that's a great place to be set up at, because truckers have a hard time doing their business because they're always traveling.
Oh, very definitely. I mean, can you imagine running a business, but you're home maybe once a month? And if you're making
Right.
good money as a trucker, that's how often you do get home. So you're either relying on your spouse, or maybe you're even tandem driving, which means you're both in the truck, and you really have zero time to deal with things. And it's kind of how people get in trouble, not filing their taxes, not keeping up with their bookkeeping, not, following through. And that's where we come in. We've developed systems here to help the truckers. And our systems are not set just for trucking. So no matter what industry you're in, if you're a small business, self-employed, consulting business, LLC, S corp, we help you keep out of trouble, get you out of trouble. We're the guy that's in that boat throwing the water out with the pail as it's coming in, because you're getting overwhelmed by the IRS and all the paperwork and everything else that you may have out there.
Well, those truckers, how do you get them to save all those receipts that they have on the road?
Hey, we make it really simple, really easy with our portals and everything that we have that's secure, that makes it so that they can get information to us quick, easy, and it's not overly sophisticated. Our staff is here so good that they'll walk people through getting us the information, or actually being able to retrieve the information for them to help them out. The good story for us is how we got into trucking. And, years ago, some of our early on clients were truckers that were having problems with the IRS. Now, if you can imagine being in a small business, now we're going to say, any small business that could apply to, but we're going to use truckers here for a great example. You get out in the business as an owner operator, and you're not aware of everything you need to do. You don't make your estimated tax payments. You're not keeping track of all your bookkeeping, and you get to filing taxes, and now all of a sudden you owe what? 10,000, 20,000, because you got not only the federal income tax that you normally deal with as a W-2 employee, but you've got all the self-employment taxes as well, Social Security and Medicare, and it's both sides. So that's an added 15.3% right there off the top, on your net income. And you're not prepared for it. You didn't make those estimates, and now all of a sudden you owe a bunch of money, and you don't have it, so you don't file. That's the typical way of things that go for somebody in a small business. And then the next year, you hadn't heard from the IRS. They didn't send you a bill. They hadn't requested your tax return, and you say, well, why file now? Now you're 3 years in, and they still haven't bothered you because what? IRS has been behind. And now you're 3 or 4 years, and now they're starting to send you letters saying you got to file. Or we're going to do SFR, substitute for a return. And when they file substitute for return, it's no deductions, no kids,
Right.
Single. The worst way you could possibly file, if you have kids and all the other deductions and expenses and everything else that goes with the business. They don't care. They don't do it. They do it in the interest of the IRS. They don't do it in the interest of you. And now, instead of owing 20,000 when you should have filed yourself, the IRS is saying you owe 60,000. Now you're scared. And now they're going to levy, take your money, all that. And that's where we came in. We got involved with truckers at that point and said, hey, wait a minute, we've got to stop this. And got a lot of truckers out of trouble. So we started catering to truckers with trucker tax tools and just helping them, because a lot of these truckers said, can you just help us and do bookkeeping? Can you do our taxes for us? Can you do these things? And we said, yes. We set up a company specifically just to help truckers do their bookkeeping and their taxes. And it's geared all around them and their industry. We know the ins and outs. I speak at a show called Truck to Success that's done with OOIDA, Owner Operator Independent Drivers Association. And it's new truckers deciding to move from W-2 to becoming an owner operator, tell them everything they need to know about the trucking industry. And that's how well respected we are in this industry to help you through your problems, through your bookkeeping, through your taxes and everything. And that's what we enjoy. I enjoy talking about truckers. I enjoy talking to truckers and giving them the insight to help them stay out of trouble. Whether they use this or not, they need the information.
Barry, I'm a big news hound, and all you hear about now is that, and I did not even know this, that the IRS during the pandemic almost basically shut down. But now that the pandemic is over, they're really gearing up, hiring all these new agents. Have you seen or felt the difference now than it was 2 or 3 years ago?
I see a lot of differences in what the IRS is doing. They're starting to get a little more hot and heavy with the letters, and you see it. The current administration that's out there says, hey, we're not going to go after anybody that, makes under, let's say 400,000 or whatever, but that is not true. If you owe money, they want to collect it. It's pure and simple. It may not be the IRS going after it, but they're going to send it out to their private collection agencies, which are even worse to deal with. We always put a request in and get it back to the IRS so we can deal with those people. But the people they're hiring, they're not the highest quality of people in knowing everything in the ins and outs of taxes, Internal Revenue Manual, the code that they've got to file. I find myself teaching a lot of these people, hey, this is what you're supposed to be doing with the IRS. Not necessarily teaching them how to collect the money, but how to be fair to the taxpayer and interpret what's in the Internal Revenue Manual so that they're living by the rules that they're supposed to live by, which not only just makes it easier for us as professionals, as enrolled agents dealing with them, but it also makes it easier for a taxpayer to be able to go there and have somebody that is going to actually follow the IRS rules that they have, because they've got to follow a certain manual and follow those rules within the IRS and what Congress has laid down to provide a typical service. But a lot of these people, all they're really concerned with is the money coming into the IRS, which you understand. We have a nation of debt. And the only way that we pay our bills as a federal government is collecting money from you and I and everybody else out there. So they're going to go after collections. They want to collect as much as possible. They want you to be in compliance. We always talk here on the Fresh Start program and the different things. Well, you and I have laughed about it because I call the Fresh Start Fresh Money program. All they want is your fresh money coming in. And when I hear these ads from these other companies out there, and you listen online and the radio and everything else, we're going to get you into the Fresh Start program. I even had clients go, why can't I get into the Fresh Start program? Well, the Fresh Start program is just the fresh money program. We're trying to work within all the programs the IRS has, modify your situation so that you don't pay as much as the IRS wants you to pay. You pay what is available for you to pay and what you can afford to pay, or to get you an offering compromise, or maybe you just can't afford to pay anything and we want to get you into a non-collectible status. Well, that's available to everybody in the Fresh Start program, but doesn't make that program the easiest program to work through. It doesn't make sense because realistically, the IRS just wants your money and they don't care one way or the other. They're going to come and get it.
They make it sound so easy. They also make it sound like it's something brand new. And you've taught us that it's been around forever.
Offering compromise, payment plans, and everything else, there's few rules within the Fresh Start program that make it a little bit easier to qualify for an offering compromise. But again, if you want to get a better deal with the IRS, then you've got to jump through a whole bunch of hoops. And so that means, if you want an offering compromise, you've got to jump through all the hoops that are out there, file all the forms, the 433, the 656, and make sure you dot your I's and cross your T's and have everything right and do the analysis. But if the numbers don't work, numbers don't work. The Fresh Start program, if you make less than, let's say, less than $50,000, they're going to put you into an automatic payment plan. Oh, great. That's wonderful. But can you afford the payment plan the IRS is going to put you in? Not everybody can. So sometimes you've got to work within the rules to get a partial pay installment agreement in place and pay less than what you owe. Or maybe you need to get a reduced installment agreement in place so you're paying far less than what you owe. Or maybe you just absolutely got to show them you qualify for non-collectible status and don't pay anything until you can afford to somewhere down the road, where hopefully the statutes of limitations run out. And so you got to look at every situation. You can't just have somebody just say, hey, Fresh Start program, you're going to get this. Well, it doesn't mean what you think it means.
Barry, how many times we're kind of starting off talking really about business? How many times has a client come to you that started off trying to take care of their situation themselves? First of all, how hard is it just to get the IRS on the phone yourself? You've got that magic phone number, but tell people the mistakes that they make before they finally come to you.
Well, when you call the IRS first, you could be really, really lucky and get in right away. You could call at a time where it comes on and tells you, I'm sorry, we're too busy today and backlog today. We're not going to take your call. You could get into that endless hold. And we've even been there on our hotline where we've been on a hold for an hour and all of a sudden their phone system just hangs up. I mean, it's just a random type of deal. So it really depends on how long you want to spend chasing after this and doing it yourself, which, you can do. When you are dealing with the IRS, you kind of got to watch what you're going to say to them, how you're going to answer the questions. I mean, being that the IRS is the largest, biggest, baddest, I don't know what term you want to use. I've heard people use the word Satan. You name it, you put on there, the hatchet man or whatever. They're coming after the money. That's what they really, really want. But when you talk, it's gospel. It's coming from God's mouth to their ears, and they take it as, written in stone, like the 10 Commandments, on the wall. And you may not have understood what they said. And you just made it a little bit more difficult for us in dealing with the IRS and backtracking what you've said. I've got to provide more evidence to prove that you just didn't understand what you were saying than them saying, okay, hey, Mr. Fowler, I understand, no problem. We'll, change this. They think you can afford it. And, maybe they heard listening to you, you have $20,000 in gold buried in your backyard or something. You may not have really meant to say it, but they believe it and they want it. Where's my gold bars, and that's kind of the funny thing when you're dealing with these, revenue officers out there and different agents within the IRS is, you say one thing and it's gospel, but if you said you were flat broke, they don't believe it. You've got to prove it. So it's kind of a catch-22, when you're dealing with it, but it makes things, a lot difficult. And especially if you're in a small business and, maybe you've had payroll taxes you didn't pay and you got yourself in trouble for whatever reason. Well, a couple of bad statements that you may make to the IRS is going to get those trust fund penalties levied against you as the business owner really quick. And now it's not just the business that owes these payroll taxes, but now you as an individual are online as well. We've seen where a manager, not an owner, a manager has been hit with trust fund penalties because of some of the things that people have said to the IRS when they're dealing with payroll taxes and trust fund issues and stuff, people not paying their payroll taxes in. And they're going to come after anybody that's going to be, was a signer, may have been interpreted to have responsibility. So you really, really want to watch what you're saying when you're dealing with payroll tax problems, especially when it comes to small businesses and stuff. You as an owner are not the only one that could be held responsible, but anybody else that's on the bank accounts as signers could be held responsible as well. It includes management and staff.
When you've been doing this for a long time, how do businesses get in trouble many ways? And what are, again, so I know they get behind on their, is it their taxes to their employees? They get behind there. What are some of the other things?
Well, first off, if you got a tax problem, don't be shy. Don't worry about it. It's a no judgment zone. Pick up the phone, give us a call. It's a free consultation, 877-996-6477. Again, 877-996-6477. I know we don't give the phone number out enough here on the show because we love talking and helping people and everything. And it's taxationsolutions.net. What we see most of the time in small businesses, people are getting in trouble is because of the payroll tax issues. I mean, that is the easiest way to get in trouble with the IRS and the worst trouble you can get into with the IRS. But if you're a small business and, let's say you're running an LLC with multiple members and you're supposed to file a partnership return, or you decided you wanted to be S Corp and you didn't file the right paperwork for an S Corp, and you start filing 1120 S's for your S Corp thinking you have the status automatically, you don't. Or people who have filed and got the S Corp status didn't tell their tax preparer that they had the S Corp status and you've been filing as a single member on a Schedule C. Well, all that leads to is non-filing or filing late on your business tax returns. And all those entities are pass-through. So when you have a pass-through entity, you get a K-1 and pay the tax on your personal, on the net income that passes through. But if you didn't file those returns, you're going to get hit penalties. We've got a company that we've been dealing with, and they came to us, and when they came to us, we reviewed 2 or 3 years worth of returns, and we talked to them and asked them point blank, you've got this company, LLC, how are you? Well, we're single member, and we're talking to them. And we're going through and giving them some advice how we should restructure and become multi-member and do these things. And the wife looks at me and says, well, I thought we were a multi-member. Well, you've never filed that way. You actually filed as a sole proprietor. It's like you're just a single member LLC. She had to go back and get her paperwork. Found out through getting her original paperwork. Now they'd been with somebody else for about 3 years before they came to us. Found out that they should have been filing all along a partnership return. And now they've got to go back and do the original partnership return for the last 4 years. Had to amend all the last 4 years of taxes to be able to get all this stuff right. And so we finally get all this right, and they're hit with now about $5,000 a year in penalties for those 4 years. So now they owe an extra $20,000 in tax. We were able to do some things to help save them some tax on the personal side. And now we're filing requests for penalty abatements. We've already got 5,000 of it abated, but we're working on the other, 15 or 20,000 that they still have out there to get that abated. Realistically, it was really no fault of their own. They didn't know what they were doing because they didn't get very good advice from their tax preparer that they were using and they trusted. They gave them all the original paperwork and the EIN letter and everything else. The guy just chose to file this the wrong way. And they thought he was doing correct. So we have some great ways of going through and requesting these penalty abatements. I think we'll get them. But you've kind of got to watch what's going on, and not knowing who you have working for you that's going to file your taxes, you really need to check them out. Make sure they've got the expertise. Make sure they've got the knowledge, not just a friend. Here in the trucking we deal with, we always talk about truck stop tax preparers or truck stop bookkeeping. And that is your fellow trucker out there. And it's like talking to your neighbor. Your fellow person out there that you're going to be dealing with gives you this great advice. I never paid tax. Well, they probably haven't filed their tax return. Or maybe they've used somebody that just said, hey, I can do all these things. And until you get audited, it's no big deal. And we've seen that happen as well. So you kind of got to watch out, what you're dealing with. Make sure they have a good reputation, not just from somebody that you've met or somebody you know, but check them out. Are they enrolled agent like I am? Are they a CPA like we have on staff? They've got to have the credentials to do it. I tell you, always lean to the enrolled agents. We're the ones that have been tested on our tax knowledge, not on our bookkeeping knowledge, not on our book audit knowledge and stuff like that, and the accounting knowledge, but we've been tested strictly on the knowledge of taxes and what we can do in the tax industry. This is what we study, and this is what we have the knowledge to be able to do. So find yourself an enrolled agent. If you choose not to use taxationsolutions.net or our sister company, truckertaxtools.com, make sure that the people have the knowledge to do it.
Bobby's got a great text. This is Ray in Victoria, Texas.
Hey, Ray.
I know where that's at. Where is your booth at this weekend?
We are down at the NRG Center. We are in booth 1406, so we're kind of over on the side, but come on out and see us. You can, Dave, be there. I will be there part-time. We'll have Allie there. We've got some great giveaways and everything else. We're going to have some special deals for truckers. But we're also going to have anybody that has a tax problem that comes there and owes, $10,000 or more. Even if you owe less, come in and talk to us. We want to share some knowledge with you and kind of help you as much as we can. And stop by the booth. We've got some special discounts and deals this weekend because we enjoy being out there. It's a great time to meet people. And any problems you may have, we'll keep very confidential. It's between us. We're not there to talk to anybody else about the issues you're having. And we pass no judgment. We're just here to help you.
He just wrote back, love your show. Do you file taxes? You do that?
Absolutely. Not just current in the year, but we'll go back up to 7 years is what the IRS will actually request from us if we're having to get you into an installment agreement. We also, if you do become a client with us and you filed somewhere else in the last few years, we'll also review a couple of years' returns just to make sure everything's right. Sometimes we find mistakes that benefit you. Sometimes we find mistakes that make you pay more tax. But we're going to explain it to you and, go through the pros and cons of, all the things that you're going to have issues with. We also, when you become a client of ours at Taxation Solutions Tax Relief, we also get you in and do a complete transcript analysis out there so that we're actually looking at everything the IRS has on you. We also get some special records that only we are able to get from the IRS that really details out any kind of communications they've had with you and what they have on your record that, we really need to look at. We've actually used that where we found out somebody is fixing to be under criminal indictment and got up to a attorney to help them, because if we're dealing with fraud and criminal things with the IRS, you need not just a tax attorney, but you need a better attorney that's going to be the criminal attorney that's going to save you from some of this stuff. We may be able to help you correct things and get things right before it gets to that point. But we've been able to help people that, finding this information out became very valuable to them to jump in front of the problem to save them from many, many heartaches down the road. So We go above and beyond when it comes to getting started with us and doing that transcript analysis to decide, hey, what's the best way and best route, and what not just what we can do for you, but what anybody could possibly do for you out there in this industry, and make sure you're going the right path in solving your tax problem.
Barry, is it better to come to you early rather than wait for them to receive a letter if they know they have a tax problem?
So I'm going to answer this two ways. The first way is how most people do it. Mr. Fowler, I just got levied. My bank account just got levied today, and they took all my money. Well, that's the wrong way, and that's the really bad way to go about it doing this. Or is Mr. Fowler, yes, I've been getting all these letters. Now I've got a certified letter here that says final notice of intent to levy, and I had to go down to the post office and sign for it. Or, hey, I'm getting this thing saying there's a certified letter. Can Taxation Solutions help me? I don't want to go pick this up. Well, okay, you've thrown a lot of letters away in the meantime, and usually that's prefaced with, I've never received any other notices. Well, the IRS has sent out many, many notices many, many times, and you've either ignored them, not opened them, or you moved and didn't give them the address. Okay, whatever the situation is, we're not passing judgment. Your best thing to do is when you get that first letter from the IRS that says you owe $10,000, $20,000, $50,000, $100,000, $1 million, I don't care what that number is. Pick up that phone and call for your free consultation at 877-996-6477 and say, hey, Mr. Fowler, hey, David, hey, Allie, Joe, whoever's on the phone with you, and say, hey, I've got this tax problem. Here's what the IRS is saying that I owe, or they're requesting these returns. Now let us get in front of that problem and stop the IRS from the collection activity they're going to start going through, and get in front of that problem right there in the beginning, and also start putting a plan together for you for your taxes over the next year as well, so that you're not going to have this problem the following year. Or maybe we've got to go back and refile 2 or 3 returns, or file 3 or 4 years of returns, and let's fix the problem there, because sometimes that helps. We have a gentleman that we just got the last week or so that came to us. He's actually hadn't filed since 2012, roughly. IRS, didn't hit him with some stuff for a couple of years. We've already told him, hey, the return we're going to do, you're going to owe more on than what the IRS came up with, which is kind of amazing. And so we're going to start with 2017 and come forward. And we're actually filing the returns, and it's going to actually clear out most of his account, other than the 1 year that was earlier that they have a small balance on. And we're going to get him to pay that off, or we'll get a payment plan on it for a short period of time, but we're going to get rid of the rest of the debt by actually filing those returns. So it became a real good deal for him, in that we didn't have to go through all the phases of put an installment agreement together or offering compromise. We're going to be able to get rid of most of the debt just by filing the tax return. So it's worked out really well for him and clearing up a lot of the debt. So, that's the way we want to get in front of it as quick as possible.
For those of you who are watching, you can see the phone number is 877-996-6477. But those of you who are listening on radio or the podcast, please give Barry a call, 877-996-6477. Barry, what is your website?
TaxationSolutions.net. So just remember, TaxationSolutions.net. Or find us on Facebook. You can look us up, Taxation Solutions Tax Relief on Facebook. Doesn't matter what area of the country you're in. We can help you. Excuse me. We can help you across the country. I have got offices we use to deal with the IRS around the country. We don't need to be sitting down and meeting. We can with you all the time. We do a lot of stuff by phone and virtual, and we deal with the IRS across the country. So our staff, if we need to use something somewhere, where we can be there. And so we've got offices, all around the country. I've got clients in every single state in the union here, and I've got taxpayers, the U.S. citizens and stuff that are in other countries that have used us to solve their tax problem, whether they're here or overseas. We have the ability and the talent here to deal with you no matter where you're at. So if you got family or friends, maybe you're getting together over the summer and somebody brings up, hey, I've got an IRS problem. I know it's not the best topic of discussion around a family table, but here coming up Independence Day, July 4th, maybe you're getting together with family and somebody says, these doggone people over at the IRS are just trying to take my money. Well, hey, you've got the right person and the right people at Taxation Solutions, Tax Relief here. Get over to our Facebook page, connect with us there, connect with us on our website, or, even better yet, that personal approach of, pick up that phone and call us and talk. I always tell people talking to you sometimes is a lot better than shooting a text or an email. Communication is key in our business, and being able to communicate with you is, a lot to do with everything we do.
Barry, it's so important also that they are totally, totally honest with you.
Absolutely. You and I have frequently talked about people that don't give us all the information or all the true information. When we talk about IRS being the biggest and the baddest collection agency in the world, they are also some of the best sleuths in the world, meaning they're going to find everything and anything that you own or have. And I mean, I've even seen them where they have found that somebody has been buying gold coins. And you think that they can't get the information, and we had no idea they had been buying gold coins, but they were able to find out that they had bought several $100,000 worth of gold coins, but didn't tell us they had it. And, we need to know that information. We need to be able to communicate that. We've even had people that have inherited land and didn't tell us that they had this land and it was in their name. And, those are the things that we need to know, as well as, if you've had vehicles. We've seen where we've had to prove that somebody's gotten rid of vehicles. Well, I sold that. Who'd you sell it to? Well, actually, I gave it to my daughter. But it's in your name still.
Right.
And it's your asset. It's something the IRS now wants the value of or wants. And you can't just give things away either, because then they become dissipated assets. We had a guy a long time ago, and we actually had to disavow him as a client and get rid of him, and just tell him we just couldn't represent him, that he was taking hundreds of thousands of dollars of assets and putting them into his mother's name to avoid paying the tax that he owed. It's a criminal violation to be doing things like that, and we just, we couldn't be a part of it. So, we ask for your honesty. We know everybody wants to avoid paying taxes. Everybody wants to avoid, making that payment or being on a payment arrangement, and they want to pay less. But sometimes you have the ability to do it. And sometimes we just got to tell them, hey, you got to suck it up, Buttercup. This is the way it's going to be. You can afford it. The program wasn't there for you to do an offer in compromise. The program's not there for you to do a partial pay installment agreement, because if you can afford it, the IRS wants it. And, people don't understand that, but, we've got to tell them like it is and be honest about it. And just like we want you to be honest with us so that we can find a way to help protect things. Because sometimes there's ways to protect those assets that you have and avoid those being part of collections for the IRS. So we want to be able to do it. We want to have the chance to do it with you, but you got to give us a chance to be able to do it by disclosing it, right up front.
Gary, I've noticed that the government, and we kind of stay away from politics with the show, but I've seen the government is really getting into our business. We have a post office box. They now want a picture ID of us, and that's their new rules that the government has said they want. These cash apps like PayPal and all those, they want a picture ID now. Things they've never asked for before. And again, I started off at the beginning of the show. Go ahead.
Government is government. They're now, worse than Big Brother at times. And, they make us jump through a lot more hoops than, are necessary. We get into doing tax returns and you have a child. Well, now, we used to be able to just put the child's name and social security number and date of birth in the system and, we were fine. Well, now the IRS wants us to do due diligence and, verify that this is your child. Even if you've been doing tax returns with us for, 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years, or 30 years, however long, you've been with us. And, we know you. And all of a sudden we've got to jump through the hoops and do this due diligence for you to be able to get your child tax credit out there. So it's crazy the things the IRS puts on us, but on every American out there. And, it's not one party or the other. It's government in and amongst itself. But yet even with all that the IRS has tax preparers do, the people that are honest are going to do them. The people that are dishonest, the people that are just looking to file a tax return and cheat the system, they're going to do it regardless. It doesn't really matter what rules you put in place. It's, we hear the things, not to get into things like gun laws and stuff like that, but, when you start dealing with situations where you're trying to put rules down that people aren't going to abide by the rules or the laws, it isn't going to change what actually is going to happen or improve the situation. If, somebody's going to commit a crime, they're going to commit a crime and break the rules. And that goes in this industry as well, which is really terrible. But the good news is if you actually vet your tax preparer and they are an enrolled agent and make sure they have their license. And so enrolled agents are licensed by the U.S. Department of Treasury to be able to represent you, do your taxes and everything to the highest levels of the IRS. You're going to be dealing with somebody that's going to be reputable, somebody that's going to follow the laws and going to be able to know how to interpret the laws to get you, as close to the edge of where you need to be to save as much money on the taxes, but yet within the rules and regulations of the laws. We don't have to break the laws to save you money. We just need to know how to interpret the laws to get you the best deal within the laws that the IRS has out there. Why do you think millionaires, why do you think every politician has somebody doing their taxes for them? Is because they're going to find them every single tax break that there is out there that you can use. And especially when you're in small business, it becomes really important. If you're doing a W-2 and it's just you, your spouse, and your kids, well, honestly, there isn't that much to a tax return. But you get into a small business and you've got a lot bigger situation you've got to deal with. Or maybe you're involved in some partnerships, or maybe you're involved in rental houses, or maybe you're involved in investments. There's a lot of technique to a lot of different things that we do to help save you money as an individual filing your taxes. And that's where we become very important. And that designation that I hold as an enrolled agent is very, very important. I mean, I passed my CPA. I've been a CPA. I just don't renew my CPA license because I find being an enrolled agent and licensed in tax so much more important, so much more valuable in this industry of not just taxes, but tax resolution and tax relief is more important than that other designation out there that you have out there, because these guys do a lot more than just taxes. And, they're not out there as qualified as enrolled agents are, in my opinion.
This will be our last question. We've got a couple minutes left. Julie in Dickinson, Texas, wants to know, is pennies on the dollar really true, or is that just an ad?
Well, that is an ad, a false one at that. I mean, yes, we settle some deals for, $100 on thousands of dollars of tax. But I actually hate that term, pennies on a dollar. We used to hear that a long time ago. We thought a lot of times it went away, and now I'm hearing it again on some of the country stations I listen to, along with the Fresh Start program stuff. But everybody's situation is different. And what I tell people is if you want to live in the pipe dream, live in the pipe dream. It doesn't mean you're going to get it. It is a dream. Now, if you want a little bit of dose of reality, you can pick up the phone and call us at Taxation Solutions, 877-996-6477, and hear what is truly going to happen in your case. Hear us ask many more questions than probably anybody else asks, because we're kind of vetting you and making sure that if we're going to tell you we think you can qualify for an offering compromise, that you're showing all the signs of doing it. So be honest with us. We're not disclosing anything to the IRS. It's an honest conversation to see, hey, well, can we help you? What can we do for you? And there are going to be times we're going to tell you, hey, all we can do is get you an installment agreement. Do you want our help to do this? And here's what your installment agreement roughly is going to be. Until we get in and do the tax analysis and everything else, we may not know exactly what your installment agreement will be, but we can come up with some kind of idea of it. And we'll be able to tell you, hey, look, we think you might be able to qualify for an offering compromise, but let us get in and do this analysis, and then we'll be able to tell you for sure. So, if you want the pipe dream, I know a lot of these larger companies will sell you anything that you want to hear, sell you anything and tell you anything you want to hear. And they'll say, well, we preface with it with possibly. We sent you the contracts and nothing said you were definitely getting an offering compromise. They said maybe. Remember, the judgment on who's going to get an offering compromise and who's not doesn't rely on us. It goes to the IRS. The IRS Offering Compromise Division is the one that's going to have the final say, and they're going to do a complete vetting of every asset that you have owned recently and in the past. And we've got to be able to answer all those questions of where this went, where that went, why you missing this money, as well as why your 401k may have been drained in the last few years. So these are the kind of things we've got to be ready to answer to be able to get those offers and compromises through. We have a great track record of getting an offer and compromise through, but sometimes we've got to use other techniques. We may think you're going to be an offer and compromise, but better for you, like I just did this week, a partial pay installment agreement. Guy signed up. We went through and did the analysis, and we went back and reanalyzed it before we were going to go do this offering compromise, and determined better for him to be in a partial pay installment agreement and pay over the next 2 years a very small sum, and all the debt falls off. The benefit was there's not a 5-year compliance after that, because if you get an offering compromise, once they accept it and you pay off what you agreed to pay, you've got 5 years to be in compliance. Otherwise, that debt comes flying back, and you owe all of it plus penalties and interest. And the offer didn't do you any good because you couldn't stay in compliance for 5 years. And that 5 years starts from when they accept it, but compliance starts the day we file. So you've kind of got to prepare it, and you've got to look at all the things behind it and realize who you're dealing with, and realize you as a client of ours, we're trying to protect you from the IRS.
Okay, well, we got to get out of here. The name of the company is Taxation Solutions. Barry, give them your phone number one more time before we leave.
877-996-6477. Again, 877-996-6477. And better yet, go to taxationsolutions.net, click the form, and get an appointment with us ASAP, and let us get in front of it. Thank you, Steve-O. I appreciate everything.
Thanks, Barry. Have a good 4th of July. Barry's with us the last Friday of every month at 1 o'clock Central Time. Hey, we'll see you guys next week with more Ask the Experts. Thank you, Juan.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.